Well, I think the Iron Bowl to me is the best rivalry in college football, and I think it has a lot to do with anytime you have that debate. It has everything to do with what's at stake when two teams meet, and there's Army, Navy, and Ohio State, Michigan, Alabama, Auburn, right up there with them. And I think the main reason I always respect Alabama Auburn is because ever since I was a little kid, it was a game that I always watched, and it was a game that always helped determine who was going to eventually win the SEC championship. And then when you add personalities like Bear Bryant and Pat Dye and so many different players on both sides, it was just one of those games for me, always late around Thanksgiving or so. You knew it was an exciting game to watch, and I really loved it when it was played in Birmingham. You know, when it just seemed to add to the mystique of the game. And my first year actually on College Game Day in '96, the game was played at the Iron Bowl, and we actually went to it. And that was my first experience being a Big Ten guy and walking into the Iron Bowl in Birmingham and seeing Alabama and Auburn. We've seen a lot of great atmospheres over the years, but for me, that atmosphere really stands out. The 2009 Alabama championship team should be remembered as a team that was able to take advantage of arguably one of the best defenses we've seen in the last 20 or 30 years in college football. They had a veteran team led by Rolando McClain on the defensive side. Nick Saban, I think, was able to use a lot of veteran players that have been probably about 3 years of playing experience on that side of the ball. They're very, very aggressive. They were able to disguise things, and just what Nick Saban loves to do, just very, very multiple. And he had veterans that could allow him to do different things. And to have Rolando McClain in the middle being that leader, I think allowed him to do a lot of different things because Rolando was kind of an extension of Nick and Kirby Smart out on the field. So I think about a dominating defense, and I think about a quarterback who was a technician, just a guy who avoided mistakes. Greg McElroy was Greg had good ability, not superior, but he beat you with his mind. And he had obviously a great running back, a couple good running backs in Ingram and Richardson. And they did just enough on offense to make you have to respect what they could do. But it was a team that was the epitome of team because they were able to get through some really tough environments and end up getting through the SEC, knocking off the Gators, and eventually getting to a national championship. Well, Auburn's national championship, for me, is going to be remembered by the vision of Cam Newton scoring a touchdown, big smile on his face, and running to the student section to celebrate after a big game. I know it was a controversial year. I know there were a lot of distractions, but I have a lot of respect for the way Auburn was able to block those distractions out. I think Gene Chizik and his staff did a really good job of just kind of staying insulated as a group and trying to just block everything out. It was getting crazy there towards the end of the year around the Georgia game and leading into the SEC title and eventually the national title. But they were able to go out and continue to execute and play. I don't know if I've ever seen a player other than Tim Tebow that could have an impact on not just his offense, but the defense, the special teams, the trainers, the doctors, the ball boys, the coaches, the stadium, the crowd, Cam Newton had an infectious personality when he played at Auburn, and everybody seemed to thrive off of his energy. And once they figured out around Game 4 who Cam Newton really was and how dangerous he is with the ball in his hands, boy, that team did not look back. Well, the poisoning of the trees for me was just heartbreaking to think that that's where we are now with college football, to think that fans have to go to that extreme out of jealousy. It's one thing to boo the other team or to be frustrated, but to actually go out and try to tear down a tradition of another school where they have some fun, and it's been going on for decades, where they show up at Toomer's Corner and throw the toilet paper, and it's a big place to celebrate a big win. It's just sad to see that. And then just a few months later, the tornadoes that came through the state of Alabama, most notably through Tuscaloosa and Birmingham. And I was really impressed, just recently moving to the South, I was really impressed to see how people in the South, and in particular the state of Alabama, how they all came together and put aside their allegiance to Auburn or Alabama. And it was more about community than it really was about your team colors. And I thought it was really cool to see Gene Chizik and the Auburn players and folks from the Auburn community coming over to Tuscaloosa and just trying to offer whatever help they could and trying to be a difference during that really difficult time for the Alabama fan base and for the folks in Tuscaloosa. So, on one extreme, with poisoning the trees, you kind of go way over here, and then to see the act of humanity, and we're kind of at the other end of the spectrum when you see what Auburn did to be able to put down all to me, that sometimes the frustration of fans and some of the stuff that they decided to do, put that aside, and this is about trying to heal as a state and trying to help out even their bitter rival in Alabama.